Jake.
Tamara.
So today, guys, crew, we are excited to welcome Jake Steinbrenner. He's a pillar in the Canadian officiating world. With nearly 5 decades of experience, Jake spent 45 seasons in the ACAC and 36 seasons in Canada West, later serving as a Canada West observer for 7 years. His resume includes multiple provincial championships, national tournaments across youth sports, and CCAA and U19 men's championships. Now in his 20th season as a national referee coach, Jake has also contributed to the sport as Alberta Basketball's former program and marketing director, an ACAC assigner, director of performance, ABOA president, and more. He's an ABOA honorary life member, a recipient of both the ABOA Builder Award and the CBOC Willock Award, and co-leads the Crew Chief Leadership Program alongside former NBA Director of Scouting, JB Caldwell. Jake, we are thrilled to have you on the show.
Well, thank you for having me. When you call me a pillar, I think some people might think I'm immovable.
Well, that's what you are. I've known of you for so many years. I think you reffed me. I don't even, it's...
The timelines would suggest he would have had to have reffed you. Probably reffed your brother.
Did you ever ref my brother?
Mm-hmm.
Of course he did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I think we talked about that. Yeah, that's crazy.
No.
When did your father play?
My dad never played. He played cricket and soccer. Yeah.
Well, I have to admit, I did not know your resume until just then, and I'm excited for this conversation.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So kind of what we do, by the way, this is episode 2 of Chatter by Elements Athletics. But it's a free-flowing conversation. We do have kind of a couple of targets that we want to go with and stuff like that. But hearing your conversation, I actually want to start on maybe not to dive right into the officiating angle. And I am curious, best player you ever saw in the 45 years that you have been doing ACAC and Canada West?
That I officiated.
That you officiated, yeah.
Great question.
Well, there were a couple here in Calgary. Richard Bonney comes to mind.
Ah, yes. He played with my brother. Jersey retired by UC.
Yeah. And then there's several with the University of Victoria, back when they won 7 in a row.
Ah.
So there's Eli Pasquale, several national team members at that time. And a guy that played for Carleton, Osvaldo Gentry, who he was a force. Yeah. So he was the guy, I think, that started the whole Carleton run of national championships. Yeah. I've never seen a guy with that kind of poise. So
that's amazing. So if my math's correct, you would have started officiating early 80s, mid 80s?
75.
Okay, my math's not correct.
Right out of high school.
Okay, right out of high school.
High school.
How'd you get started?
Well, I played basketball, and I wasn't good enough to move forward to the college level. And my junior high teacher was a basketball ref. And he came to me and asked me if I wanted to referee. I said, hell no. So then he told me how much money I could make, and I was in university, right? So I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. And, he took us to my high school practice, me and another guy. And so, basically gave us the fundamentals, and then we went out and refereed. And it fell right into it, and it was quite enjoyable. Yeah.
And in those days, was that kind of like this? I mean, I'm not going to call it standard entryway, but was that a common entryway? It was just almost like an informal mentorship under a referee that did it, and you kind of just get recruited in and learn on the go?
Yes. Yeah. The community was much smaller, and so I think there was much more of that. Now, a lot of people come, they look us up somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know where, but
the website.
online. Yeah.
The website.
And and then they show up at a meeting. But yeah, no, I was introduced through a gentleman who was my junior high teacher and remained my mentor for years. Yeah.
Interesting. Definitely want to come back to mentors, because that's an important concept, I think, with what we want to talk about.
Totally.
What we're working on really hard with Mic'd Up for Refs. Did you like it right away, or I suppose what kind of led you to stick with it for 45 years? Because you probably had a few opportunities to to gracefully exit, but like you stuck with it, which is like, I mean, like,
Yeah,
admirable.
good for you.
Yeah.
It's a very good question, actually. I did like it right off the bat. And I think I was fairly successful because by Christmas of my first year, I was doing a Christmas tournament that had teams from Montana.
Wow.
So, it was enjoyable right off the bat. That said, once I got to the next level, i.e. the provincials, my performance unfortunately had a very controversial call that almost caused me to quit.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Can you go into detail about that?
Sure. I can tell you that in the last 8 seconds of a tie game, the clock didn't start. And this is way before your time, Tamara. But Crescent Heights at the time had a rotary clock, and that's where we played that provincial.
What do you mean rotary clock?
And so, like, what time is it? And we didn't notice that it hadn't started. And so the ball went out of bounds, and I looked, and we still had 8 seconds left. So we replayed it instead of going. It was tied.
Right.
Today I would just go. It's over. We're going to overtime.
Right.
No, let's replay it. And I called a foul. Game deciding free throws.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you roughly remember, like, it was for sure past 8 seconds, hey? Like, if you think back on it, like...
I could have easily convinced people of that.
Got you.
Yeah. And it wasn't the minor officials because they were students who were doing a great job.
Yeah.
It was their teacher who decided to overlord them. And I don't hold a whole lot in my heart for that guy. So, yeah, had it been left to the students
They would have gone
who were
right.
doing the job all tournament, everything would have been fine.
So I just want to put a little pin in this because, like, back to camp, the crew chief camp where we had those questions, this makes 1,000% sense why you guys talked about, like, Jake is very much a person that tells you, okay, what's the rule, but, like, what's actually best for the game. Like, that was ultimately really kind of what the overarching kind of principle was. And that's exactly what he said. Like, maybe technically there would have been 3 seconds left, whatever. But he says, like we were very much put it, like, they begged into our heads, guys, like, what is best for the game? Send it to overtime, let the players decide.
Yeah. What's best for the game is something, though, that's being
Phased out.
I don't know, hamstrung, I guess is the word. Like they're, certain organizations like FIBA, they want you to do things by the book.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Whereas those of us who manage the game, who are there to, make sure the game is run properly and under control, obviously, but we got to use our judgment. So.
Yeah.
I have so much I could talk about. But like as I was hearing that story, because this is 1975 or 1976, if I'm doing the math correctly again. So 50 years ago, the detail you just recollected that with, like, it's so interesting. Like, you think about how much referees care.
Right.
And about, like, because I am sure there are members of the team that lost that also remember that event and, like, are like, oh, that ref screwed us, is what they're thinking. And to me, it's just fascinating. Like, it clearly still bothers you a little bit, and you can remember that call, like, with just crystal clarity. And, like, I don't remember what I had for breakfast half the time.
Right.
But to think, like, you're remembering this event to that level of detail from 50 years ago, like, to me, that's just been, like, that's a takeaway. Like, people who stick with it, like you have, like, if there's a referee who's been in the game that long, it's because they care and they want nothing more, like, than to serve the game. Like, that, I don't know. That was incredible. That was my takeaway from that story.
The coach didn't talk to me for 20 years.
For 20 years?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Wow. That's wild.
Well, he had a powerhouse team.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
That's wild.
T, do you have a call? Like, if you were to look back at it, like, do you have one that you're like, oh, I wish I could have had that back?
See, a lot, but, like, I haven't reffed enough for them to really, like, I don't have something that's that memorable or, like, that, what would you call it? Like, impactful. Because I do know I can think of stuff where I'm like, I wish I would have taken it back, but it didn't really impact the outcome of the game. But it was a shitty call. Yeah. if that makes sense. I'm sure, and he's pointed out some of those to me as my referee coach in some situations.
Well, you'll have more of those calls,
Yeah.
and so will I.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But the ones like I just mentioned,
Yeah.
you hope you never have them.
Yeah, and that's why they tell us these stories, and this is what to remember. Like, I will never forget that, and that will always come into. I know I'll bring that memory up when I go. There's a situation that happens, tie game. We're sending it to overtime, guys. No matter what, I don't care what the rule is.
If you're legitimate.
Legitimate
Yeah.
gray area type.
Yeah, we had another situation just recently in Edmonton where where a player threw the ball at the referee in the last second and a half, and the referees reset the time to a second and a half instead of letting the clock run out because the 24-second shot clock went off. And then the game ended, but they went and reset it to a second and a half, which allowed the losing team to vent their frustration.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
Again, FIBA says you're supposed to reset it. And, yeah. But
Did the player throw it at the referee intentionally? Like, this is unsportsmanlike?
Yes.
Okay. And they reset it as oh, wow. Okay.
To give them so like in theory they wouldn't even it would have happened after the
game was over.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was enough of a margin.
Right.
But technically they did the correct thing.
Right.
Technically.
But then that gave space for
frustration,
anger, where if you would have said the unsportsmanlike foul happened after the end of the game, it's fine. It's over. Interesting.
Okay, this is a place I didn't think this conversation was going to go, but I feel like I want to bring it up because it's relevant. There's this element of there's the technical right call in every situation, and if that is the best way to officiate a game, you can make a strong argument that AI should come in and we should work really hard on some of these AI systems to come in and alleviate a lot of the pressure off officiating or perhaps even replace them in some instances. And you've seen success in places like tennis with systems like Hawkeye and stuff like that. Now, it's a very different situation from basketball, obviously. I'd be curious, like, you've got 50 years of experience, and my argument is, I think there are places where that makes sense. Like perhaps if we're talking about like an out of bounds call where it's binary, like I think perhaps systems like that could really help officials so that they have fewer things to focus on and would probably get it right more often than the human would. But there's this human element of a judgment call that to me is the essence of officiating. Like that is what makes great officials is they are able to apply logic and judgment to administer the spirit of the game. I suppose that was me mostly on a soapbox talking, but how do you see the human element of the game, and how do you teach that to a referee? Like this judgment call.
Oh, well. Tennis, okay. Calling the line, calling the net doesn't involve player interaction. Basketball has player interaction on and out of bounds. A lot of times, physical contact is ignored if the ball's immediately going out of bounds and it's not egregious. Okay? But the NBA has overturned those things, okay, because the last touch was the other player. Okay, so the human element is supposed to decide whether that contact was relevant and who should get the ball, in fairness, right? So that's where the human element comes into play. Calling balls and strikes in baseball, okay? Right now we have a box that is not 3D, okay? And we all don't understand that the plate is this big, okay? And when we see that ball like be below the box, we don't understand that at 3D that it's still in the strike zone. So those kinds of things, I think AI has its relevance. But when we have player interaction, okay, in football, in basketball, in hockey, okay, there's far too much that requires judgment, the human element, that AI, I'm not sure if it's there, but it's just not going to be able to do it correctly.
Right. And it's actually funny because that out of bounds, that's exactly what I thought when you were talking about the out of bounds play. I'm like, I know I've made calls and players have been like, well, she was out of bounds. I'm like, yeah, but you pushed her, so I'm giving the ball back to her. So, sorry.
Well, in this setting, like such a great example of like the difference between like I am like a church league, rec league. Like I've never officiated nor had the ambitions to officiate the level that you do. But it's funny how like the example I had in my mind was a toe on the line.
Yeah.
And it's funny how like a higher level official instinctively,
Bounds or free throws?
well, in both instances,
Well,
the
there
A
you
line.
go.
I was thinking the 3-point line, the
Yeah.
whatever. Like they're just the ability to detect that was the very specific
Use
case
case,
that I
yeah.
was thinking of. But it's funny how like a high level official automatically like goes to like, yeah, that's easy. What's more irrelevant is the complex. Like, was there a push that led to
Right.
the and that to me just really highlights like one, how difficult the job is, and two, like how hard, like what's the key to learning how to do that? Because maybe I'll speak to my experience quickly when I set that up. Like you go, you play the game your whole life, you think you know it, then you step out to officiate a game and you're like, how on earth do I watch everything? You know what I mean? Like you as a player coach, you're used to looking for 2 or 3 things maybe at a time. And all of a sudden as an official, like you are trying to watch a lot more. And my experience was like, I felt like I just watched none of them well initially, like because you're, or if, then you'd be like, okay, I'm going to focus in on this. And then all of a sudden, like, you're like, oh, well, like, I have no idea why that person's on the floor, or what happened there. How do you teach that? Is it just like a byproduct of experience, or do you think that's like a teachable skill, this ability to?
You have to talk about it. You have to have dialogue with your colleagues or your partner or a mentor who was in the stands. Okay, that all needs to be discussed. Today, people watch a lot of video, okay, but that's snapshot officiating. Okay, that's that one snapshot. It doesn't take a look at what happened prior or in the context of.
Right.
Right. So when we used to referee a lot we used to meet after. Like we would gather at meeting spots, whether it was like an Elks Club in Lethbridge, I remember we went to, or a restaurant or a bar. And there'd be 6, 7, 8 of us, and we'd all talk about our game that night. And that'd be point, counterpoint, yeah, but that, and all this going on. And you learned from that, especially when the elder statesman spoke, right? When, oh, okay, now I get it. And I don't think that happens as much anymore.
Yeah, that makes sense. I would agree.
Okay?
It doesn't.
Everybody, basically has their ref shoes in hand, shows up at the gym and puts their shoes on and runs up and down the floor and then puts their street shoes on and leaves.
Yeah.
You're not going to learn that element that you just referred to by doing that.
Interesting.
So by reviewing posts with somebody else who's better, that's a really interesting point though. Like video is a very powerful feedback tool, obviously, but it's a snapshot in time, and it's the context before and after matters. And
Right.
That's a really interesting principle.
Yep.
From Southern Alberta originally, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Coaldale.
Oh, really? There you go. I went to U of L.
Did you?
Yeah.
I did too.
There you go. Great institution. Actually, I love U of L. It is a great institution. I had a great time there. Good experience. Okay. Communication. So we have a hypothesis that a lot of times, now this isn't evaluating a referee on call accuracy. This is the perceived experience of a player and a coach with a referee. A lot of times the experience of a player and coach with a referee probably has more to do with their communication abilities than necessarily with their call accuracy. Would you agree or disagree?
Well, people are judged on call accuracy, especially in the NBA. And we have a colleague that we all know from here.
Yep.
And he's in the NBA, and that he gets judged on call accuracy. However, he's also judged on game control. He's judged on how the coaches perceive him and how he interacts with them. So I think it's all in kind of together. You can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
Okay. Because when you do have call accuracy, okay, first of all, a lot of times you're going to get challenged, so you need to be able to explain it quite often to the coach. And the right use of the correct verbiage to keep it short, to the point, and hopefully satisfactory is critical, right? And then you're going to get pushback because that answer might just totally go out in one ear and out the other.
Yeah.
So now you're going to have to deal with that pushback. So,
do you think that's more you think the word choice and verbiage is more important, or how you show up in terms of confidence, composure,
how you deliver it,
delivery? Delivery. I mean, the answer is always it's a little bit of both. Like it's an oversimplification to say it's one or the other, but
As you start officiating,
Yeah.
being like correct, applying the fundamentals is more important.
Yeah.
As you move up, then the other one comes composure, confidence. Those are critical because when you move up, you're dealing with higher level players
Yeah.
who can smell fear.
Yeah.
So, you need to be able to show confidence and strength and obviously still be accurate, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
did you notice as you transitioned in your career and you got better, more confident, more established, that your relationship with players and coaches changed? Or was it, did you notice a difference at all? Or was it kind of, do you think that was independent?
That's a good one because I really didn't have a lot of problems with coaches
From day one.
from day one.
With the exception of the one that wouldn't speak to you for 20 years.
Oh no, there were other incidents.
Okay.
In 48 seasons. You
can have a few,
lot of incidents. In fact, even lately there's been incidents simply because of the way coaches are. They challenge everything. They feel they have to protect their player, which means now who are they going to protect the player from? Okay, and so I think that's an reaction now to go after the referee so he can you could say face with the player.
So say like a show, like
Yeah, exactly. And I think that needs to be discussed between organizations, between leagues, and we have to end that because people are watching and that's what they model.
Yeah.
This feels like the perfect transition to me to the Moses Lake story.
Oh my gosh, yes. I would love.
Because it feels incredibly relevant of this concept of we feel justified in the spirit of fairness and protecting to cross lines.
To do anything.
Yeah. So do you want to set the table on the story or
No, I think you should. But have you heard about this Moses Lake story? Washington. Is it Washington?
Washington State.
I've driven through Moses Lake and I didn't even buy a watermelon.
Okay, so you know where. But have you heard about this? It's like, I think it happened a month ago.
No.
Okay. I think Mark can set it up better, but like I will chime in. But yeah, I would love for you to set it up because I'm going to mess it up.
Okay, I'll set up. You chime in with the details that I'm missing. Story came out November 20th, high school football game between two rural towns, Moses Lake and the Bothell Cougars. I probably mispronounced Bothell, so my apologies in the event somebody from there hears me say that.
Warming up their fingers.
But high school football game, the home team had a few officials that were from the town, had coached at that school previously, and I believe one had a kid attend that school previously.
At once, yeah. But kid currently not on team.
Yeah. Nobody was currently coaching at the school or had a kid attending the school. But clearly a potential conflict. So high school game, very close game, a couple of late overturned calls.
For the home team.
Home team wins. Visiting team is upset. And I naturally so.
Is this to go to the semifinals or round of 16 to go to the next in the championship?
Round of 16, so this would have taken you to the semis.
Yeah.
Or quarters, I should say. My apologies. I can do math.
I can't.
Okay. So none of this, I think, is necessarily being upset is not the problem. But however, what they did, they file a complaint, which again, I think that's not necessarily an issue. That's why we have these pathways, right?
They wish that they would have disclosed of the potential conflict of the referees, that of their history.
They felt like that wasn't disclosed and that those officials shouldn't have been on the game.
Right.
But they took it a step further and
then doxed the refs.
Yeah, explain doxing.
So doxing is that it's a form of bullying online, cyberbullying. They put all their personal information, like their workplaces, their addresses, their family, their information for people basically to attack them. Mm-hmm. Potentially online, but also physically in person.
So there's that. Now I'm going to give, I think the association came out with like a perfect response, and they explained something that gets to the heart of what we're doing at Elements Athletics. But I think this story talks a lot about this concept of, you had this group of parents who felt like in the name of fairness and giving their kids what they deserved and earned, clearly crossed lines, like went way too far. And that's what the association came out and said was, hey, look, one, like these officials were on the game because they were the only officials available. The option was to not play the game or go with these officials. Two, they had all disclosed the conflict of interest. It wasn't
unknown.
It wasn't unknown. It wasn't deceptive. And three, like there's an appeal process that's appropriate.
Yeah.
That you can go through, and that's why we have it.
Right.
But you can't
cyberbully.
You can't threaten.
Yeah.
You can't. Yeah, exactly. You can't cross lines because you feel like you were wronged. And so like that's the story. And I thought I wanted to talk about it today just because to me it's a very big example of what happens on a mini level in every game. And you alluded to it with your story of there's an incident where like parents, coaches, players, they're all invested. They've invested a lot of time, effort, money. Sure. It's an emotional experience. I've been upset. Everyone gets upset. Like it happens. But in the name of, let's call it fairness or protecting a player, they feel justified in violating the
rights of somebody else,
sportsmanship, or sometimes even the safety of others. Is that something you've seen happening more of? Or like, I suppose, what are your thoughts when you hear that story?
I see an explosion, not more of. I don't know the numbers. But I think there's triggers in people now that come out. And when that happens, there's an explosion. And it's unreasonable. Mm. And society's looking to blame. They're vengeful. They're invested, yes, of course. And do officials cause outcomes of games? Rarely. Can they impact the game? Yes. Okay, the style of play and how we officiate that style, all of those things can have an impact, but rarely do they cost the game, right? Yeah. But again, going back to society, what is society looking for? And this comes back to the leagues, okay? Leagues have to have a zero tolerance policy for that kind of behavior. It should never have been released, right? Those officials' information should never have been released. Going back to disclosure, I don't believe that anybody should disclose my information before I step on the floor, okay? But the people who assign us or schedule us, they know our history. They should use their best discretion in certain situations. Now, we're all from somewhere. So when we start officiating, I started officiating Coaldale, and I played high school there, okay? And then I refereed the University of Lethbridge, okay? And most of the guys that played for the Pronghorns in those days thought I was harder on them than I should have been. And I said, well, guys, I don't want to be a homer. Okay. So sometimes we maybe go too far the other way, or I've seen the other way. I have seen calls go in favor of the home because people succumb to pressure.
Yeah.
Okay. And they want to go home and have everything peaceful.
Yeah.
Okay. They don't want to get a phone call. They don't want to go to the store and have somebody accost them. So it's all human nature, right? Yeah. But again, we need to have, first of all, a league that doesn't tolerate it, and everybody buys into it, whether the coaches and the players and the fans and the referees themselves have to have the integrity to go, you know what, I'm too close to this one. I don't believe that I can, under pressure, maybe make the best decision. Okay, so, and if I do make a decision and it's either way, people are going to accuse me of one or the other.
Regardless. Yeah. So like it's so funny what you touched on, Jake, because like similar situation. Obviously back in your day, is a lot more informal situations. Like you were reffing right away, your university, all that stuff. I don't know how many years out you had left, but like you said, you knew the guys still. I know when I joined the youth sport panel just 2 years ago, and I remember what our assigner Mike Thompson told me, like, from day one. He's like, basically don't expect to referee University of Calgary for the next 5 years. I'm like, okay. Because especially at the time, my coach was still the coach. And like even the girls on the team now, like I think now only this year is it that I don't directly know someone on the team from me playing with them or me being on the recruiting process with them or yeah. But so I only got like the games that were out of non-conference. So like the not important games. And I'm like, that's fair. And it's funny but when I did do those non-conference games, I'm actually harder on my team only because I'm like, I expect more from them. And that's I probably go too far, but.
Well, you advance quickly, right? And those who advance quickly perhaps haven't experienced those situations where their integrity can be called into question.
Yeah.
So you're always going to ref somebody you know.
Totally.
Like I said, and if you do enough senior men's and women's, if you do enough high school, you'll go through those stages.
Right.
And you will develop that level of integrity that is required. And then when you go to the University of Calgary, for instance, you're now aware. You can feel your heartbeat. You can feel what your mind process is. And if you can shut out everything other than being correct on the floor and doing your job, then you're ready.
Yeah.
Right. But if you feel the pressure because of, player influence or
Yeah.
coach influence or the fans or whatever, if you hear them, then you're not ready.
So I almost think like Mike was protecting me without really realizing it. Like, because I do remember my first game when I reffed that non-conference game, the lights, I'm like I felt it was nostalgic. So I like, only now am I realizing that in a way he was protecting me against that because like I never got to build that toolkit. So that's fascinating. Interesting.
Yep. Build up the callus.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, it's a lot of times it's like a first year player starting.
Yeah.
Like they haven't been given the opportunity to have the experience to learn lessons yet, and so there's going to be gaps always. Mental toughness, like I think you're just alluding to it right there, and maybe mental toughness isn't the right word, but
Resilience,
composure,
emotional
intelligence. I think there's a lot of components to it or ways you can kind of phrase it, but where do you put that in importance in a referee's toolkit?
I've heard of emotional intelligence, and I think it's a thing. I'm more about critical thinking.
Yeah.
And when you can start to understand why we call something, what its impact is, how are we going to be consistent, what did my partner just do or my partners, all of those things fit into the context of a game. That's critical thinking. When you take care of that, then it removes the emotion. Yeah. Okay. And you can just go about your business. And are there times and moments, like for 30 years, up until, probably the last 10 years when I was on the university floor, I had butterflies. And I think that's normal. So that part, sure, that's emotion. That's driven by some anxiety, but it's more driven, I think, by the fact that you don't want to screw up. You want to do a good job. And I had lots of people in the stands who knew me, and I reffed a lot at the University of Alberta because that's eventually where I moved to. So at the University of Alberta, lots of people in the stands would call me by name.
Yeah.
Right? And so that emotional part, you have to shut out. But at the same time, those people also would see me off the floor and would compliment me. Rarely was I criticized off the floor.
Right.
So once you know that, then your emotions shouldn't take hold of you in the game, in the course of the game. I don't know if that answers your question, but
no, I love that answer. Go ahead, T.
No, actually, it's so that's something that I think is a fair point to teach, especially to young refs. Because a lot of times they take things personally and they think that like, oh my gosh, you're yelling at me now. So then it's like, when it's like you change how you act, especially after a game because like you think something else is going to happen and that in itself might then cause the interaction that you didn't want. So that mindset shift of it's the game. Like there's emotions in the game. Everyone's gonna have their opinion, but like it's okay. But like after the game, it's done. I think it's interesting.
Oh, I think that's extremely valuable. I mean, that's not a referee lesson. That's a life lesson.
Yeah.
You know, like after work,
Yeah.
work's done, right? Like when, you know, like if whatever, like the ability to,
Compartmentalize.
I'm not a therapist or a counselor, so this isn't, but like just the, like there are times where you need to do your job, and in order to do that, you need to be process oriented.
Yeah.
And I like the component of by focusing on what you need to do, it helps block out all the distractions, you know, like.
Going back to what Tamara said about young officials taking it personally, they let it get personal because they don't use the tool we have, which is a technical foul. But first, talking to the player and giving an explanation, you know, hopefully to diffuse it, right? And yeah, you're gonna get momentary pushback even when you're explaining it. But I think in the end, the player respects that. And then it doesn't escalate to personal comments. Because a personal comment, to me, that's when it does get personal. And it ends there. Or you will end.
You're gone.
You're leaving, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think young officials are taught that, nor do they have the stomach for it, okay? They don't deal with crisis now, right? Very well.
Well, okay, and so this is where I always kind of not feel like a fraud when like you ask me questions about like what was the situation that was the most abusive, blah 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 to me. But like my biggest mindset when I went into reffing myself was, you know, I was a crazy, like I was not the nicest to ref. Like that's part of my thing. But I learned how to, and then I learned how to speak more respectfully, but then also to understand that like when I'm reffing now, I just wanted the refs to speak to me and like give me an explanation. So that was ultimately what I wanted. So that's how I always approach any interaction with a coach or a player, almost to my detriment. Because a lot of times I've been told, Tamara, your conversations are too long. Like, get over it. And you know, I can speak. So he's laughing because he knows. So speed it up.
Yeah, this is a refereeing problem.
It's a refereeing problem. It's a life problem.
Rambling.
But yeah, so that's kind of, so that ability to think of that way, like just talk to them.
I mean, it's an interesting, you hear coaches say this over and over again. As a matter of fact, when I first started Elements Athletics, one of the video clips I put together was like a reel of coaches saying, I just want to be talked to. 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 Now, I think there's...
It's a fine line.
I think that's not a complete truth. I think that, but I do think, you know, you hear coaches say that all the time, right? Like, I just want to be talked to. I don't even care if you're wrong. Now, that may, like...
Okay, coach, how did you open the conversation?
I think there's levels to that, right? Like, I think there's levels to that. Like, I think it's more, not, my personal opinion on that is it's not that they don't care if you're wrong. It's that they like to be right, and it's satisfying to be right.
They want their team to come out ahead.
Yeah. But there is a sentiment, and I'm going to take it at face value, that I do think most coaches and players would appreciate getting more explanations, or at least some explanations, and I think young officials, like, that's a big ask of a young official, right? Mm-hmm. Like, who, as you noted, like when you start, like just trying to like get the number of steps they took right is the most important thing. Or, you know, like this isn't just for basketball, like, but, you know, watching the offside or whatever the case may be. It's a big ask of a young official to be able to do that. When do you think an official should start to learn those skills? And how do you do it? How do you learn to talk to it? Is it just a matter of getting in there and doing it, or?
When you have a firm grasp of the verbiage of a rule.
Right. Know the rules.
Like know what that rule says, so that you can repeat it.
Yep.
Okay. And if you do it in a short, concise manner with confidence, then okay. Players don't know the rules, really. I mean, they don't know the definition of it.
No.
They just think it's, well, I got pushed, right? So if you use the accurate verbiage in the book, and now you're confident doing it. Now that's when you need to be able to talk to players using that terminology in the beginning and maybe enhancing it a bit, okay, with a little empathy, right? Like give them their due,
Right.
right, that they felt they were hard done by. So I think empathy is important. If you immediately get defensive, then as a referee, you're going to be in for a big hurt, right? Because you're going to attract a lot of attention that isn't in your favor. So, did you ever read the blueprint of a good referee that I sent out?
I did.
It was written. It was one of the best things I ever heard coming from a coach. It was a presentation at a big weekend in that Alberta basketball put on in 1988 by Bruce Enns, who coached the University of British Columbia, and he talked about what makes a good official. And I would welcome anybody reading that and going, wow, this is from a coach who was difficult to deal with at times, yet he always knew his humanity. Like he never, ever, rarely crossed the line, if ever, from being coach and upset as a coach to becoming an intolerable human. That, to me, is critical. And when we have intolerable humans, now every referee's in jeopardy.
If you were to distill the blueprint of a good referee down to a short synopsis, like 2 or 3 sentences, like what was your main takeaway from it?
Oh boy.
This is September you sent this.
Yeah. Again, he never ever talked about the rules, really. He talked about approachable.
And communication.
Communication. He talked about they knew their place.
Humility? Was humility mentioned in that?
It might have been,
Yeah.
I think indirectly. They knew their place, and they knew that they were not part of the show.
Yeah.
Even though we're part of players, coaches, officials, we know we're third, definitely third. So players, when we respect, it's for them, and in the end, it's really about them. Then that's what a good referee is. They know their place. But when they want to be the show, if they feel they need to rise up over top of players and coaches, then I think that's not a blueprint for a good referee.
Yeah.
So.
The player experience, something is that we talk about a lot. Like one of our concerns, I suppose, about like how officials are treated and the culture around the acceptability of how you treat an official is there's this underlying implication that if something doesn't go your way, you blame somebody else. Mm-hmm. And to me, that like grossly cheapens the athletic experience for a young athlete of like the lessons. I've got a 3-year-old daughter, of the lessons that I want her to learn from playing sports.
It's not that.
It's not to blame somebody else if it doesn't go your way, even if perhaps
You might be right.
you might be right. Even if it perhaps like there was like people are human and mistakes will be made not in your favor. But like if I could have her learn anything, it would be to control what she can control, to focus in her own lane, and to make the next play, to figure out how she can be better.
What's the next step?
What's next step? And to me, that's one of my big concerns around, like we talk about being about the athletes. Like I couldn't agree more. Like I mean, people say this all the time, right? The best referees, you tend not to notice them, and that was a bit of a soapbox. But Tamara, you were talking earlier about as a player, how you were somebody who would lose it on the referees.
Yeah.
Now, I will say I remember being spoken to by the assistant principal, actually, in my grade 12 year, that I needed to get fewer technical fouls. So like I can relate to that a little bit. And when I look back at like the lessons that I wish I would have learned from being an athlete, I wish I would have learned mental toughness and composure better, because I would have been a better athlete. Like I was never going to be good. Like I had like a 27-inch vertical, right? Like it was what it was, right? Like, but when I look back at the lessons that would have translated to life and the lessons that would have made me better, That's it to me, is don't look for somebody else to blame. And to me, that's why we do what we do, is because, and that to me is the importance of, referees are wrong. There's bad referees, there's bad calls, whatever the case may be. The athlete experience is better if we learn to put sportsmanship first.
Well, when you degrade your opponent that you just defeated, you diminish your accomplishment. So, respect the person that you just defeated, right? I see in pro sports far too much bravado, and it started in the NBA, and now it's in the WNBA.
Yeah, and NFL.
Bad.
Yeah.
So it's to me, it makes the product almost unwatchable because of the announcers focus on that stuff instead of focusing on the game, and on the talent and on the fundamentals and on the accomplishments of the teams. They focus on the coach behavior. They focus on the interaction between player A and player, AB. So, it's not a fun thing anymore to sit and listen. In fact, I'd rather turn the sound off. Right.
Well, that's funny you say that, because a lot of people are like, a lot of the comments are like, well, you guys, you just don't want us to sell, like, you don't want us to show emotion, blah, blah, blah. And like, when we talk about, for example, ref giving a technical for that player doing something inappropriate to the other team, degrading them in celebration of, and it's like, no, like what you just hit on is the point. Like, we want you to be emotional. The game's emotional, but then there's a respect of the game that we're losing because we're trying to show up and showman other people. And that's what the kids are seeing. And they're like, oh, you guys don't want us to be emotional? It's like, no, we do, but not degrading somebody else. That's what we're trying to
there's
out.
a difference between, I'll use the example of a dunk, a player making a huge dunk, and being excited for themselves,
right,
and celebrating it versus taunting the person they just dunked on.
Yeah, like,
you just soared like an eagle. Why would you act like a turkey after that, right? Like, it doesn't make sense to somebody like me who never dunked. Right? So anyway,
yeah.
I feel like this was one of those conversations that could get away from us, and we could end up talking for far longer than was supposed to, which is a good thing. I think it's a sign of a good conversation, and a sign, like we obviously all love athletics, and we see officiating as a critical part. I was thinking about that on the drive in here. Like, people complain so much about the officials, but like, if you've ever played in a game without officials, like if you've ever gone, I always call it Lindsay Park, but if you've ever done the Lindsay Park Sunday night run, or whatever, a church league on a Thursday night or whatever, and you've tried to do it without officials, you're reminded
Why?
of how badly you want a ref on the floor.
yep.
You'd mentioned, or I shouldn't say you mentioned, Tamara was saying that right now one of your roles is leadership development, and you're doing a bunch of training for that. What are the points of emphasis right now? What are you teaching the leaders, like crew chiefs and things like that, I'll put a period there.
Well, okay. So there's several things. One is attention to detail. Okay. You have a personal responsibility to know what your craft is. So, and that, not just the rules, but the application of the rules, but, the mechanics and how you position yourself to get the best look on the floor, and all of the little things that are attention to detail. Something as simple as hustle. Like, today's game for most developing officials is volume. So people do not hustle because they're doing too many games. I'll say that, guys.
Agreed.
Okay, assigners are taking on too many basketball games. The association is taking on too many basketball games. They hand it to the assigner, and the assigner puts it out there, and now we've got referees doing. I remember in May at the alley-oop tournament, 11 games in one day.
That's
How
wild.
can you possibly be
Your best?
First of all, I can't be good after 2. In fact, 1.5. Okay, so and
One overtime.
and I can fudge it, but I don't think young officials can. So there's the attention to detail part. There's the critical thinking part. Okay, know what you do, why, and understand its impacts. Okay, and understand the emotional aspect, that why you're getting pushback on certain things. And then being ready to be a leader. In other words, we now have 3 officials in a lot of the higher level stuff. How do you manage and lead your crew? And you can't do that by overlording them, like by being the show and do as I say, as opposed to, you want people to be a unit. So how do you bring people together and have everybody do their job so that the unit itself is effective? So that's important. And then it comes down to, watching plays and having the confidence to do what might not be popular, or it goes sort of against the rule, okay? The technical part of the rule. And a lot of the guy named Eric Lewis that we bring in, his whole time is spent watching video, but he one video will take a half hour of discussion. He'll break it down in that much detail and why it's happening, the critical thinking part of that call, and what it can lead to and why it was called, and all of that.
And it's funny. So what I learned, the big thing I learned from your crew chief camp, and then Eric Lewis's point in that was, first know the rule, because what that allowed, knowing the rule, allowed then Eric or whoever to make these decisions in the game that, like, you're not, if you get the call from your assigner, you're not going to get pushback because it's the rule. But like in the game, like it really helped the crew overall, but it's not what people would think. Oh, that's going to be, you have to do that. Oh no, because of this, you can do this, blah, blah, blah. Kind of what we talked about. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's a huge, and if you can do that as a crew, that's what makes a difference in a crew chief, being able to make those decisions and save the crew.
Yeah. You start by being accurate.
Yeah.
Okay. Doing the things that develop trust.
Yeah.
In the players, the coaches, and the people who assign you. If they trust you, now you can use your judgment, and your assigner will defend you. Coaches will understand you. It's all about developing trust and credibility. Until you have that, it's going to be difficult to not be just by the rule.
I mean, I love that. Like we talk about that in business even all the time. Like, you can be wrong, just have logic of why, and because you can learn from it then, and you can explain it, and then it's like, okay, cool. Like, it just didn't work out the way we thought it was going to. Let's learn and move on. One last thought that came to me as you were talking about people doing too many games, because that gets to a lot of what we're doing. Like, there is a shortage of referees. There's a massive shortage of referees. That's one of the reasons why people are doing so many games. Now, that being said, this is a solution that had never occurred to me in terms of a holistic solution, but it came to my mind as you were talking about, like you said, one of the problems is that associations are putting on too many games. And like we talk about the professionalization of youth sports. Now, one of the reasons why there's so many games is because you can make money putting on tournaments, games, stuff like that, right? Like, it's a business opportunity. And like, you look at like the youth sports development models, and we talk about, you see it, hockey talks about it all the time, of like why the rest of the world's caught up with Hockey Canada. USA basketball seeing the same thing. And one of the strong theories is that we play too much and we don't practice enough. And it's funny how kind of maybe perhaps by getting back to the roots of like, we don't need to play 60 to 70 games a year as a 15-year-old is a way to both help the athlete develop more, solve the officiating crisis. Everybody shows up better prepared because you haven't done 13 games that week in 3 days.
Yeah.
I thought that was that was the takeaway that I had as you were talking. So that was an interesting.
When you get your schedule and you've got, for instance, I'll use in the springtime when people do way too many games.
Yeah.
And you've got 15 games on your schedule. I mean, where's your confidence, right? Like, immediately your feet hurt and your mind goes numb, and you're already fearing going out there.
Yeah.
Or in hockey, or as a player, where's your creativity when you're not playing shinny?
Right.
When you're just allowed to go out there and have fun. Okay. When everything is so structured now. Okay. Why do we need U13 basketball games tournaments. And why do we need officials for them? There used to be something called intramurals. Okay. And then there was extracurricular basketball, right? So, and there was a distinct line between it. And referee associations didn't deal with intramurals. That was unfortunately the teacher or some lovable parent that refed it to the best of their ability, and it was accepted. Okay, and it was good enough.
No, I love that. Like a solution is a bit of a return to playground, rec league, intramural style competition, which I think is where you learn to compete as an athlete too.
Yeah.
And when you're not being coached to death. And I think there's a lot of value in that experience.
Yep.
Okay. T, were there any major topics that we didn't hit?
No, I loved how it our in the news moment kind of got brought in based on where you took the conversation, Jake. That was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have one more segment called In the Comments.
Ooh, in the comments. I'd love to get
Are there comments already?
not about this one, about other
So that we can dive into. Okay. So I'm looking through. This is the first time I've looked at this list. Probably should have looked at it before. So, but we've got, first of all, let's give a congratulations. We had a Calgary referee make it to the MLS final.
Yeah.
He's going to coach
Or
perhaps one of the greatest soccer players of all time. If
Ref.
not, he's going to ref. I apologize. Thank you, Tamara. So congratulations to Drew Fisher. So there you go.
Inter Miami versus. Oh no, sorry, MLS. Look,
MLS.
sorry. So Argentina. Wow.
You can tell we're both
I know.
big soccer fans. Miami versus Vancouver.
Miami. So it is Inter Miami.
Yeah.
Okay, I was right.
Yeah.
Soccer was my first sport.
Oh, was it?
Did you ever ref it?
My uncles played, so I was like 5, 6 years old. I had a soccer ball on the sidelines.
Nice.
They're around.
Okay. We've got here. Okay. Female officials. This is one that I'm not an expert in, but got a clip of a coach visibly intimidating a referee. And do you is there a double standard on how we treat female refs compared to male refs in both your experience? I suppose, like you've watched a lot of games as a mentor and as a coach, and you obviously have first person experience,
Right.
And I'm gonna park my comments here.
Yeah. I don't. Okay.
First time I ever heard a disparaging comment towards a female referee was in Lethbridge. And we didn't have a lot of females in those days. In fact, she might have been the first one in Lethbridge. And yeah, some of the things that she was being told from the stands was very disparaging. Okay. Back in those days, it wasn't called out. In other words, it wasn't ended. People just said it and everybody laughed, right? And and has it continued? Yes. Unfortunately, it makes, I think female referees right now are a target. There's more of them. And again, fans being fans and society being what they are, they'll say what they want to say.
Right.
There's no filter, right? So unfortunately, females right now are a target. And people are testing them, and that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So
I know, again, I still come with time. Because I haven't refed for a long time. I've been fortunate to not necessarily have like those type of incidences where like people are yelling disparaging things at me at a game. I'm sure it's going to happen at some point. But what I do know is I'm very conscious of not wanting to be a bitch or come across as one. So like and this is where it's probably just my own perception or my own thing. Like the way, say, Corbin or you or like goes and speaks to a coach and like, boom, just goes and teases them up right away. Obviously you speak to them, whatever. My leash is a lot longer, not necessarily in a good way. I know that I need to shorten it, but it's because I'm kind of conscious of not wanting to be that. Does that make sense?
why is it long and why is it short? You need to identify those reasons. Because sometimes you have to have a short leash. And sometimes you have to have a long leash.
Right. I'm not at the point where I can I'm not good at changing that. I only have a very long one. I'm yet to tee up a coach in a university game where I know I should have, and my partner came across and teed him up for me, my crew chief. So I know my part of my game that I have to work on. So that's how I feel.
That was cool to see like coaching in real time there of like, distill it down to your why. And like, is your why for the game or is it for, it's interesting. I obviously, I don't think I won't add a lot. I will say I've talked to, I don't know how many referees in the last 2 years. It's a lot. Hundreds and hundreds across North America, across many different sports. And observationally, I'll say this, like if somebody comes in and like Jake, you're a big guy. We've got a developer that works with us, soccer ref. He's like 6'4", deep voice. Like I remember asking him, he's like, I don't really have a lot of problems. As an overarching statement, I'll say I've seen this. Like that's a theme with men, especially if they're big in stature and if they're fairly confident and assertive, they tend to not have problems. And I will say the stories get worse quickly when I talk to female referees who are perhaps smaller in stature,
less confident,
and it's the words that they get called and the aggressiveness, like the stories are, and so that's an overarching trend that I've seen just as I've talked to. I've talked to a lot of refs.
That's a component, stature, and male, female, but those male referees with stature, a lot of times they just gloss things over. They don't deal with the issue. Okay, so that can be a bit of a red herring.
Totally, and that wasn't me.
No, I'm not trying to. But I've seen a lot of stout officials. Just gloss it over.
I think there's a male ego component too, as well, in that like men don't want to be. I think you don't want to admit you had a problem, right? Like, oh no, well I don't have problems, but I see a lot. I hear that all the time.
Sure.
I don't really have any problems, but I see it a lot, and so it's. I think there's a component to that too. Okay. Oh, here's a good one. Apparently, we've got a recent fight between. What is this? A referee's perspective on a recent fight between minor hockey coaches. I haven't read the whole story, so I won't dive into it. But the question around it is very interesting. Do refs have a blacklist?
It would be dishonest if I said no.
Right.
Because there are certain coaches that we discuss more often than others. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm not sure that it's a blacklist necessarily because each of us, I'll be honest, when a coach or a player pushes against me, my adrenaline goes up. And you know what? I like that. I'm more into the game. I don't shy away from that part of the game. It actually makes it more exciting. The worst thing you can do is have a game that's like, if you did, I don't think I'd last 2-3 years if that was the way basketball was. The exciting part of it is because it is exciting. It's got some emotion and it does have all kinds of, celebratory moments, and it's got moments where everybody goes, what? So that's a component of it that I think any good official would welcome.
Yeah.
And where there's coaches that stick out, we talk about. But those who put them on a blacklist, that's not being honest.
Strong word, blacklist, but referees do have memory.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. And like they do talk about events because someone's just preparing
1,000%
each other for a team. Yeah.
Yep.
Our pre-games, we talk exactly player tendencies, coach tendencies, who are our problems. That's part of the crew chief. Like know your lizards before they turn to dragons, right?
And of course, you also talk about how you can get extra calls against them, right?
Oh yeah. No, my God. That's just like, what do people think like we're doing? Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So that I think is where it that's what's not happening.
No.
And
I'm going to make this call on this person. Make sure they get out of the game.
yeah. And I think there's a trickle down. I mean, you've got stories like, you think of Tim Donaghy from, what was that? With the betting scandal in the late 90s, I believe, and stuff like that. So like, I think stuff like that like trickles down and people then use something like that as fuel for their fire.
A blanket thing for
a blanket, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know, again, like very like different experience, but like when you've had a conflict with a coach, I know a lot of times like I'm overly maybe trying to be like, okay, like I can't, just because I remember that incident and I'm like, I don't maybe have like a great feeling for you right now. Like I need to try to be impartial, and perhaps you almost overcorrect at times, I would say would be probably the more, or a common response. I don't know if it's the more common response, but
I kind of do.
All right. I think that is a great, we've asked a lot of questions and we hit time. If you were to impart, I guess, like closing notes, you got a first year referee that you're trying to coach up who's maybe a little bit shy, has been roughed up a couple of times and is a little rattled. Give that ref a pep talk. What would you say to him or her?
Go back to why do they officiate, and why are they like lacking confidence now? What is it that the reason they started refereeing and now they feel like they're thinking of leaving? What's the gap? So you address the gap, right? And hopefully, if it's something that you can work on slowly, then that's what you work on. If it's confidence, then you need to just go back to blowing your whistle, using your mechanics, using your voice, and being accurate, but also showing as much confidence without too much verbiage. Because as soon as if you're not confident, your verbiage is going to
show it,
right? So you just go back to that. Ask them, why did you start refereeing in the first place? Now, also, what do you do in life? Like you have skills in life that maybe you're not using, right? Like we all have duplicated or not. What's the word? Lateral skills.
Yeah.
And why are you, the way you are in life, father, mother, whatever, and not in refereeing? Like you use other skills to lift yourself up and out of this funk, right? So
I love that. Look for your successes.
Yeah.
T?
No, that's great. Jake, you always impart some wisdom. I was just saying that you just coached me there for a second.
Shave to get the gray off.
Yeah, no, that's great. And that's because now I'm asked as a quote unquote whatever senior referee is. I don't believe I'm that, but like to help mentor. But what you just gave me are some really easy practical things to help impart to the person that is now looking for me for advice. Because that was great.
I'll be honest, I'm a little concerned with some of the mentors we have in CBOA mentoring others.
I agree.
And again, in fairness to them, we need to have a mentoring session and teach the mentors how to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. There's no perfect way, but there's got to be
a better way.
There's got to be some parameters, right?
I agree.
Yeah.
I have thoughts about mentoring. To be released, go to Get Mic'd Up. And you can see some of our thoughts on mentoring. GetMic'dUp.com. But seriously, though, if you're an association who's like, what could we do to improve our mentoring? I think we have an interesting solution that we're excited to talk about, probably in more detail in our next podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Jake, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. This was an excellent conversation.
This was better. We didn't really have a game plan, but this was we had a game plan. I lied. We always have a game plan, but like I love where it went. It was great. I loved this conversation. Learned so much.
Yeah, I mean the game plan was loose, but
it was loose.
It was a great conversation. It was awesome, and honestly, like as a builder of basketball in Canada, and I think sometimes we don't think of people like that, but somebody who started officiating in 1975 when basketball in Canada was like a very distant third or fourth sport.
Except in Southern Alberta.
Except for the hobby, yeah. But you think of what the game's become. You think of what it means. You think of what the game meant to the country recently when the Raptors made that playoff run and how it brings people together. And it's on the shoulders of people like you that the game was built. And that's the reason why the infrastructure is there and the positive experiences they're having. So thank you for that, because you certainly have done one of the most thankless jobs. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Bye.
Subscribe, y'all.